Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Flow. I'm Kevin Lowers alongside Ben Knapp here, and we got a special guest today. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, man? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm Drew Michaels, and I've been friends with Kevin for a while, known Ben for a while, and this is my first time being back on a podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah, since we retired ours, right?
Yeah.
Drew was actually the other guy alongside me when we were running Millennial Madness. Podcast at I think it was like 2017, early 2017 maybe?
Yeah.
16, 17?
Yeah, it was a few years back. It's crazy how much time flies.
I know, it's crazy. We would just talk shit for two hours and drink wine and maybe we got somewhere, maybe we didn't. But we had a damn good time doing it, and
something about it, man.
It actually inspired me to keep going. So that's why I started working here alongside Ben, and me and him would just, it's the same reason me and Drew started it. He would come home from school, and we would just have these long-ass conversations. And we'd just drink wine, and we'd talk about life and what we were doing and what was positive and what we were working through. And we were like, we should just start recording this shit. So it was kind of like we were itching our own scratch. And then when I started, working alongside Ben, same exact thing. We would just get lost in these long-ass conversations about God knows what. And we were like, hey, why don't we start recording this shit and just sending it out to the world? So here we are, reunited with a old podcast pal who is actually like my best friend. I see him all the time. So
I'm a podcast pilgrim.
Yeah, but welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
We don't do anything too productive here. We just kind of talk shit for about 45 minutes.
Roll some things around.
Yeah, roll and run in our hands. So
that's what I like to do best.
What's new? What do you got going on in your life right now, man?
Oh, man, I've been, just working. I got, so I do graphic design for an agency called Zarnowski, and we have General Motors accounts. So we do their auto shows globally, which is cool. So everything's been good. Our Canadian shows are going on right now. We're finishing up Toronto at the moment. Everything's been incredible. I live in an apartment with a best friend of mine who's been on the podcast, or who was on Millennial Madness's podcast before, Alex Estes, but things have been going really good, man. I've been taking my freelance design a little bit more seriously now, and I'm picking up a lot more side work, which is incredibly exciting. I'm extremely passionate about what I do for a living, but the side hustle really for me is the most exciting. What gets me,
You love like brand identity, like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my bread and butter that I've always loved to do is brand identity, logo development, different marketing, things like that. Just the surface level look and feel of a company and the smile of a brand is what I've always loved to create, and I've been pulled to that ever since like I was a little kid. You know what I mean? I would be drawing logos and shit when I was younger. I remember I was either in preschool or first grade. My dad came and picked me up, and my teacher was like, "Yeah, he drew the University of Michigan logo on the magnet sketch thing." She's like, "It's weird. I don't see kids doing that."
It is meant to be. I would imagine too that kind of the brand identity when you sit down with somebody and you go over what they're looking for, and then you basically help them like potentially think of a name and then actually build out that might be more like rewarding than like working for a company where like you're doing design work but it's for a company that's already established. So it's a new, but it's not like you just pulled something out of like nothing and you built it. I don't know.
There's definitely I mean the process of going from the ground all the way up to this brand that's living and breathing and in the real world and in reality and in space, and I'm seeing my logo and the advertisements on billboards and the website's up, and it's an extremely rewarding process. But starting from the bottom, starting from nothing, no name, just some ideas and what we want the company to be about, and then building on that and creating an actual living and breathing identity for it and seeing it come to life. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's all amazing. You know, I love doing work. Say someone needs a logo that needs to be redone. That's obviously really fun too. But anything branding for me is, I nerd out on it. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I mean, Ben and I definitely understand the importance, because I think it's one of the spots that we've maybe lacked as a company. You know, I think you can't be good at everything, right? And graphic design is one of those things where it's not something you can just sit on the weekend and learn how to do, you know. Like, I mean, you to an extent. I mean, I think I do some mediocre work, but it's mostly because I've been friends with you for so long, and you've taught me quite a bit about the industry, and a little bit you've kind of coached me up on like Photoshop, things like that. But it's definitely not been our strong suit.
It's interesting. It's like I guess because I'm not a graphic designer, like, you know, I don't necessarily share that passion, but it's, you know, we got to do some work together today. We got to screw around a little bit. And we got to see Drew like doing what he loves to do, and all of a sudden, you know, because graphic design, I'm like, well, it's really not that big of a deal. You know, I'm a trainer. I'm a behavior coach. You know, that's what I do. But man, when you see an idea actually come to life a little bit through the eyes of somebody like Drew, who it's not just an image, it's actual life. It's actually something that's evolving. It makes it a whole lot more exciting. That was neat. Just a little process we got to play around with today. It was really cool to see not just a design, but, you know, people, you know, expressing themselves through their work.
It's definitely fun to, you know, like today, it's fun to have you guys looking over my shoulder, and even though I'm just kind of messing around and moving fast, you know, you get a glimpse into my eyes and how I think about the brand and how I think about its evolution, and how I can best tell your story or our story through the brand and through your logo. I mean, people really underestimate the power of your logo. I mean, it's the smile of your company. It's literally your face, and it's so important to consumers when it's, you know, in stores or, you know, whatever the product may be. Up on the streets. I mean, you want something that's going to be obviously visually interesting, but that's going to stand out from the crowd in some sort of way. Every successful company in the world has a logo that you know, is recognizable and kind of does its own things, and that's the puzzle to be solved when you're creating a brand. And you know, and it obviously helps to be working with two incredible guys, you know, that I'm going to be able to call really good friends of mine for the rest of my life.
Thanks, bro.
Awesome, man. That's awesome.
Of course.
Yeah, no, it is cool, man. It's funny because, like, me and Drew have been good friends for a long time, since middle school, right? And as he, you know, went deeper down these design rabbit holes, I was kind of alongside with him, so I was exposed to it more than I think normal people would be, even though I wasn't in that field at all. But it's funny now, it's like if I go to a restaurant and like something's not aligned, like I want to leave. I literally, like, if you give me a menu and like it's not like uniformed and it's not well thought out from a design perspective, it actually makes me like uneasy. Whereas like before we went down these rabbit holes, like I would have just been like I would have not even thought about it. But it is beautiful. Like when you talk to somebody like Drew, who is an expert, a professional in that field, like you get to see you just get to see like what's really going on. Like you've explained to me like why somebody's attracted to something, like without them even knowing it. You know, like you would never think about this stuff unless you're around someone like yourself. And now that I've been exposed to that, it's something that I think about on a day-to-day with everything I see. I mean, you could even take that into like the way you set up your office. Like the way you where you put the desks, where the chairs go, where you put the pictures. Like if a picture's slightly off, I'm like, I gotta like fix it. The amount of times I've been at like a doctor's office and I have to like fix a picture because it's like crooked.
Well, yeah, it's funny, you know, and you mentioned that you maybe would have not noticed it before had we not hung out so much and I hadn't been telling you these things, but the thing is, you would have, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. You go inside of a building or a restaurant or something and you get a menu and the logo's off-centered. You might not look at that and be like, oh, that's off-centered, that looks like crap. But subconsciously in your mind, something's off and it seems skewed. And then that subconsciously puts sort of a damper in a dark, you know, kind of a messy overview of the restaurant itself without you even realizing why. It's just off-centered. But it's a reflection of the company and that they didn't fix that issue when they got these printed and centered it up. And it's the same thing with interior design, right? You walk in a building or an office and things are jumbled up and nothing's really organized. You might not be able to pinpoint why exactly it's unorganized or why it feels off, but you know that it feels off, and subconsciously you make that, you know, you attribute that to the place. And that's why design is so important. It's the same thing with a logo. Like when you look at a logo and it's messy and it's, whatever, it's you're turned off. It's not. There's nothing sexy about it. There's nothing visually appealing towards it. And I think that it has like a lot to do with your subconscious. Really, it does. I mean. Yeah,
like the level of care,
design, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you immediately see there wasn't a high level of care involved with the creation of that too. Like when I see a logo that's potentially just thrown together or a name that's just sloppy, it just kind of gives me this idea of the company as though they're not like thinking things through.
Yeah.
And then you can only assume. Obviously, you should never assume, but you start to assume that maybe like they're not put together well in anything else that they do, whether it is consciously or subconsciously. It's a fascinating. It's like getting a glimpse into your mind, like Ben just got to. I've been telling Ben all about it, like all along. I'm like, we got to get Drew in here. Like he's our guy. Like once you get to kind of see his creative process, you'll know what I mean and why we need him to be like pushing our cart forward on the design front.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you got to see that today because obviously we just got some work in. I mean,
I thank you guys for bringing me on board. You know what I mean? It's amazing. When you design a logo should be a story, and that's the thing. Like the hours and hours and hours of work that can go into a successful logo, like that is going to be reflected, and it's so hard to sort of try to comprehend how a whole story like that can be put in one small emblem logo. You know what I mean? It's like how do you even? But the most successful logos are that story. They do represent that story of the company and the core values and everything that the company wants to do, in this world. And it's a direct representation of that. And of course, it's sexy and it's cool. It's fun looking. You want to wear it on your hat, your T-shirt. So it's definitely a cool process, and it's even more fun to be able to have two people who you guys are trainers. That's what you do, and have you guys kind of see a glimpse into my mind and what makes me excited about doing brand development, and being on the same team is just, and then you guys start to pick up on things, and then I start to pick up on things that you guys pick up on, and then, it just becomes...
Yeah, I feel like it was a strong collective effort to get done what we got done today.
That's what I think about. I'm like, imagine, it's so cool, like... I only know what I know. I only know how I feel, right? And so it would be up to maybe the people sitting across from me or working alongside of me or maybe a client that says whether or not I work with passion, whether or not I'm a passionate guy and I approach my day. I like to think I do, but maybe I'm just angry.
Disillusioned.
Yeah, right. So, but I think about that. It's like, and how refreshing, and I'm thankful for this talk and what we got to do today. It's like how refreshing it is, like I wonder if everyone, and anybody from the street sweeper all the way through, executive officers of large businesses, if everybody, went about their days with the same amount of passion, regardless of what it is, like if it would just add so much more color to everything, all the things we take for granted, and it's beautiful. You never hear about. I know now it's going to make me think about all these different companies' logos and everything, and really, and think about maybe the amount of hours or weeks or months that the creative process took, and maybe it's almost like art. Maybe stop and just have a little bit more appreciation for the things that I otherwise just look past and don't think twice about. So it's cool. I mean, it could if we could all just be so bold and just to work so passionately. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just design. I think it's any. I'm lucky because I was able to find something that I truly love to do. I mean, this is like I said, something I've been doing since I was a little kid, doing little logos and stuff like that, and. Luckily I found a way to make a living off of doing, graphic design, which is incredible, and we've talked about it so many times. I'm sure you guys have talked about it a billion times on the podcast, but it cannot be said enough. Finding something that you like to do is just key. I mean, you have to be doing something that you like to do to be happy in this life. Your job, something that you do every day, all day. I mean, of course you're going to be miserable if you're not doing something that you truly like to do. Yeah, you might be good at it, but do you like it,
Yeah, I mean, I think you should be, and even if you're someone listening and maybe you don't like what you do right now, but like you got to pay the bills. I mean, we all know what that's like. Like, continue to do that, and look at it as an opportunity to continue to develop your discipline and to be able to do things you don't want to do. Because even if you take a job doing something you want to do, there are going to be moments where you got to do something you don't want to do.
You're going to have to work overtime. You're going to have to work weekends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think the constant pursuit, and again, something like Drew and I have been really good friends for a long time, and there's a reason it's lasted. Like he's a very motivated individual. Like he's been training and exercising and taking care of his health. He's been, pursuing self-development, growth. Like all these things are also underneath like the career option that he chose. So again, like if you love graphic design, obviously it's going to be great, but all these other habits that you've cultivated over these years, like also influence the success and happiness in your life. You could have the greatest job ever, but if you don't take care of yourself, like eventually you're going to hit a crossroads. You're going to feel like shit, and you're not going to be happy. You know what I mean? So there's so many, it's so multifaceted, but this experience that we just had, before we started recording or we were doing this is just a great insight to like, you can't be good at everything, and you got to sometimes just stay in your lane and then find people that can do it for you. Like I've done a lot of our design work. Obviously, like I've had some good insight. I'll call Drew up. He's been so busy with his job, getting acquainted over the last, this is your second year there, right?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
About a year and a half. So, you're in your second auto show. You're a little more comfortable. You kind of have an idea of what you're doing and like you've had experience doing it. But, like, he was too busy to kind of help out, so I just kind of took the role. And I mean, you can see the difference between somebody who has spent their life, their adult life pursuing a skill set, and somebody that's like just kind of doing it as like a weekend just to like get by because the business needs it.
Yeah,
so
it'd be like if I took a handful of your clients and tried to train them by myself. It would be terrible. You know what I mean? Maybe not terrible as long as, over the years you've been showing me, oh, well, you got to do this and tell them this when this happens. I'd have some insight, but I mean, when it comes down to it, I wouldn't be yielding nearly the same exact results that you guys would. And that's just
stay your lane. I mean, like, and that's the beautiful thing. You kind of approach me. You're like, hey, man, like, I got the hang. I want to start dipping my feet back in the freelance world. And I'm like, bro, I've been waiting years for you to say that.
I'm waiting for you, bro.
I know you guys have. And it's one of those things where. I mean, I knew I needed to put freelance to the wayside when I first got into my career doing design at Zarnowski. It's like, okay, I need to focus on this. This needs to be my primary focus. I need to get as good as I can.
How do they feel about that? Like, do you a lot of companies, they sometimes they own you.
The freelance stuff, it's a weird thing. Do they support it? Yes, of course. Okay. Yes, it's not like they're no freelance, but. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing the same work that we do at Zarnowski. I don't have the capabilities.
There's kind of a moral understanding.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I do like logo and identity that have absolutely nothing to do.
Well, you work in a very niche design market.
Exactly.
Like, that's niche. Like
that's what allows
like
me.
Auto shows. Like those are massive printouts that you guys, it's amazing. Like last time I went to the auto show with you, it was great. I'm there with Drew, and Drew's just like feeling all. It was his first auto show, first year at Zarnowski, and he's like feeling all the material. It's funny because my wife's dad works for the same company. He's been working for a long time, and I'm walking with Caitlin's dad, and then we look over and Drew's like feeling all the material, and her dad just goes, he's going to do really well in this industry.
That's cool.
It's great, but it is just like everything just seems like you just notice things more when you're around somebody that has that kind of creative mind. Like I think I have a creative mind, but in its own way. Like I'm not as observant to like just design schemes like you are, so it's cool, but my point was is that it's kind of an interesting market from the design perspective. You see graphic designers obviously in web design companies and for logos and for marketing, but you don't really think about somebody working directly for these massive things you create for auto shows.
So yeah, I had a job that fell through right after college, and it was for a branding and digital agency. I won't say the name, but it was something that was in that field, logos, websites, things that I do for freelance. And it was I got down to the third interview, and they said, you got the job, just do this and that, and we'll give you a call. And they just ghosted my ass, just ghosted me. It was the most crushing thing ever. I'm like, how can? I thought the real world wasn't this is a real job. How can they just not call me back after all the, whatever. Best thing that never happened to me, because if I were working for someone like that, a branding agency, I probably wouldn't be here right now, because that would be a conflict of interest.
Plus, what does it say about them to
you don't want to work for?
What the fuck, man? Why?
I cannot tell you how thankful I am that fell through.
Have the decency to call me. Like, I get it. Like, they don't have to. They don't owe you anything. But still, it's like, it just says a lot about a company. You know, like...
It's a direct reflection
exactly.
of each company.
If we started hiring people, and we decided not to go with somebody, I would call them and be like, listen, man, like, we really appreciate it. Like, you're going to do great. Like, you really fit our mold, but, like, we're going to go with somebody else, and I apologize, and I wish you the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, like, now that kid is not super discouraged. Like, he knows that, like, he put his best foot forward, and maybe there's someone out there that was just a little better for the job. But
maybe give him a few pointers.
Yeah,
like,
a few pointers.
Continue to get better at the following things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it goes
Check back
a
with us in it,
long ass way, man.
Yeah, it's very unprofessional. I mean, it's the same thing like in dating. You know what I mean? You ghost someone after talking with them for a while. Like, that's a shitty thing to do. You know, that's a bad thing to do. But like I said, it was amazing. You know, it sucked at the
Blessing
time.
in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise, and you know, and that's why I really truly am so thankful for my job now. I mean, it's 2 miles away from my house. I'm not going to sit here and brag about it, but it's amazing because it allows me to do my side things and really pursue my passion in freelance design and doing logos and identities for companies, and because it's really exciting, man. It's an exciting process of building a company is building the brand. And
well, yeah, it's unbelievably important. Like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like if we had like more brand awareness, like I think we do an unparalleled job with what we do here. Like I think the level of care we take with each client, with our own selves, like the amount of work, you know, myself, Ben, and Dan have put into our own education to be able to deliver the service that we do. Like there's not a lot of places that I know of that really take that level of care. Mike Koval always comes to mind as another one out in Ann Arbor who kind of has that same motive, right? Like just really trying to be exceptional. You know, and that only goes so far if your brand awareness looks like shit.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
because again, like the first thing people are going to see when they're looking is your logo, is your name, is the marketing material around it, and that exudes either a professional look or a non-professional look. So you automatically get like a bias to somebody coming in if your site looks like shit, if your social media looks like shit.
They're not equal, though, in my eyes, the value of them. See, I think the value of having an incredible service, like you guys have done your due diligence, you guys have been doing this for years, you know exactly what you're doing, you failed, you've succeeded, you know how to train these clients, you know how to talk to them, you know how to call them after hours. You know exactly how to do that. And so when I come in as a designer, you guys have that story ready and you know exactly, you know, what the core values are the company are. It makes it so much easier, the process of design, rather than me, you know, meeting with a couple of young kids who want to build an app that they're not really sure.
Well, it's funny when we're you know, I've always told you, like the very first time I think you and I were both working on our laptops in the same day. Like we're looking at the website. Yeah. Within like 30 minutes, like I'm literally like thinking about just ripping the laptop.
Ben's like the calmest, most zen person I know, and like up to that point, I had never seen him like get overwhelmed. And dude, I thought he was gonna throw his laptop through the window. I
don't like it.
Yeah,
I just don't. It's not my kind of work. I don't like it.
And I think, like, to your point, you know, like, I agree, too. I mean, like, we've built a successful business, you know, despite that. But, again, it's one of those things, it's, like, always, like we're on the performance side, like, of wellness. Like, we're always, like, we talk about it on the podcast, we're always looking for an edge. You know, and good branding, good design is another edge. And it's going to make what we do from a service perspective that much better. You know, and I think it coincides better. It's like if you see the beautiful, you know, images and the beautiful logo, and then you come in and you get our beautiful service, it's a full circle effect. You know, whereas like you can definitely get people in the door.
Circle.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, 2 of them.
Yeah, and there's some big things coming, man. I'm super pumped that we finally got to sit down. I was feeling a little under the weather yesterday, so I was like, and then I'm starting to work myself in. I'm like, tomorrow, like I got to make this happen. Like we've been talking about it all week, and luckily I pissed excellence yesterday and the day before, and got to bed by 8:30, and took all my vitamins, and I was ready to roll. So it's exciting times, man. I mean, we've got a lot of big changes going. I mean, that was kind of the premise of today's conversation, was just going to be change, because we're always going through it, you know. And if you can become really good at it, you know, hopefully on the other side, if you do it correctly and you put the work in, it's always better. And I think for us, thus far, it's every time we've made a big shift, it's been a positive. You know, so we ran into some things that seemed like headaches at the time, but I truly think will become blessings in disguise, you know, as we go forward.
Well, look how excited we've gotten, man. Like, you know, we've got like, we come up with like 15 15 ideas of ways that we can, the things that we want to accomplish in the next few months. And
think about the moment where maybe you get bad news or something about the company that's just like, man, that sucks. Like, we're going to have to do this and this and this, and just think about like the moments of that phone call and then flash. I mean, it literally is all perspective. It's how you look at it. Oh, sure, we can't do this anymore, but look at what we can be. Look at where we can go. It's like, this is happening for a reason. Let's think about it like that. Let's spin it like that. Let's make this something even more incredible than we thought that this could ever be. You know what I mean?
I already feel like we just landed the ship on the island.
Yeah.
After like an hour of mind mapping, man. Yeah, it's
just very concrete. It's a very concrete but creative and sort of flowing thought process. We all sit down and we're all just, there's no rigidness in it. We're all just kind of putting out ideas, and you get a concept going, and then you start to get more towards the point. And then once you get something cool and creative going, and then you're able to intertwine the most important values and ideas of the brand into that look, I mean, it's exciting and it's awesome.
It's fun to also experience like mini group flow. We spend a lot. Again, we spend a lot of time trying to hack, and we try to teach other people different ways of hacking. Just trying to make life better, just trying to make days seem less stressful and more productive. And when people can settle in on the greater common goal, and they're extremely open to everything, it's just it's a nice flow. It's a nice opportunity. You get to learn something, man. It's like I despise the man who's no smarter today than he was yesterday, right? So it's like I love asking for help. I used to not be able to. I used to not be able to ask anybody for help, But now it's like I love identifying that's what I was talking about. I love identifying that, like, I'm not any good at this. So if what we're messing around with today was on my shoulders, like, it's fucked. Like, it's not going anywhere. Because, like, I'll just, I'll find something else to do, busyness being another form of laziness. But no, it's like, just as an individual, relinquish a certain amount of authority, and then you trust people, that's... I look at this as so much further beyond just like, business development. I look at it as I'm proud of myself for being open to everything, and just putting everything on the table, being vulnerable, so.
Yeah, saying, okay, I'm going to let you take this, you know what I mean? And not having complete control over maybe everything.
And you trust people.
Well, I think back to like my first position in this industry, and it was like the complete opposite. It was, I think I've talked about when I met Ben for the first time, it was just hilarious because like we just started talking about like Stoic philosophy and like growth and hacking and like being open-minded, and I was like, it was a complete refreshment from where I was. Drew was along the ride with me. He got some good insight to what I was dealing with in my last job as a trainer, and it was exhausting. I mean, I was making way more money than I make today. I was in a better area for the industry. I was dealing with more wealthy clients, so easier pickings, I guess, I suppose. I was a mediocre trainer at best. Like, I was just good at talking to people and making them like me at that point. But again, I was dealing with a position where I couldn't move. Like, I had no mobility inside of it, and I was trapped, and then so to come here and to work alongside you, where it's like no one directly owns this. Like, it's a collective effort, and the company does better, we all do better. The company does worse, we all do worse, because we're all responsible for it. And I just love that. Like, I think that's where business is going. Like, I think the president of the United States is a dying thing. I think having one person in charge, calling all the shots, is a disillusioned way to go about like order and living, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, it doesn't even look at like what is leadership. Give me 10 bullet points of what leadership is, and none of it is like do it yourself, only your way, and fuck everyone else. Like, that's never been a part of that.
Yeah, and so like lead from the front. So coming over here and like immediately like I brought up the idea of starting group classes. So Ben literally like builds me a room like in a week. Like, I used to have just great ideas, and like I would be entertained by my employer, like, yeah, it's a great idea, and then nothing would ever happen. And I wasn't in control. I had no wiggle room. I couldn't go do it by myself. Like, it would be a conflict of interest. I didn't have the finances. The company did. So all these different things. So to get here and to constantly have the ability to just express ideas, whether they're stupid, whether they're great, and have someone across me going like, either talking me off the ledge, like, dude, that's fucking stupid, like thank you for that clarity, I appreciate that, or like, dude, that's a great idea, what do we got to do, what are the next steps? So again, like going forward, dude, there is no ceiling to this thing. I mean, we got some really cool things in the work, a lot of changes going on, and I'm instead of being fearful, like, dude, it's amazing, man. Like when I see people that are like so afraid of change, like I think just early on, like even back to Millennial Madness, like we talked about this at length, and it helped me tremendously. We were 19, 20 at the time, right, or 20, 21 maybe at the time when we were doing this kind of stuff, and just constantly talking about like everything changes. It's in a constant state of change. Like there is no homeostasis. You will never achieve it. You know, so get used to it, embrace it, love it, and then always try to make sure that whatever's on the other side of change is better and improved. You know, and I guess that just takes a lot of self-analysis. That takes a lot of discipline. But at the end of the day, like what isn't changing is dying. You know,
so is it global warming, or is it this is just the way it is?
Yeah, right.
Like we used to all be ice, okay, and now we're not. So
yeah, exactly. It's I think a lot of it. Yeah, and it's different. You know, there's all different forms of change. You're changing as a company, where maybe you need to change, and you feel that you have to change in order to escape, you know, the business going away or something happening legally. You get in legal trouble, whatever. And then there's the type of change where everything's going well, and you're looking at making a leap, even though things are great. And that's where the real risk comes in, and the real excitement and the real rewards come in. And I think that one thing that I've really been just thinking about more often, and I've always thought about it, but just the notion of resistance and the thought that the resistance that you feel towards things is really what's creating the agony of, you know, of that situation. So say I haven't worked out in a few years or something like that, not to get off on a tangent here, but want to kind of bring a full circle back into change and training. Say I haven't worked out in a few years, and I'm, you know, you sitting at home, man, I really got to get in the gym. And you feel that resistance to going in the gym, when really that resistance is the only thing that's creating the agony. It's not going to the gym and working out. That feels great. Like that's
the solution.
Amazing. Yeah, that's the solution. It's that resistance that you feel initially towards that act of change that really creates like more resistance and more fear and you know, the resistance to change, which needs to happen in order for things to be different.
It's like the paralysis by analysis. You just keep overthinking. And again, action is, at the end of the day, what breeds like all success. Like you can't, how many good ideas are there a day that are never acted upon, you know? So
well, if you think about it, people don't actually separate themselves from that emotion. You know, they basically say, I am afraid.
Right, exactly.
Right? So they become that emotion. You know, now they are a person living, you know, they're just fear-based, rather than saying, you know, I am afraid of what I don't understand about what's about to happen, but I'm still me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think they do. I think we become the emotion. You know. And
for some reason, us humans, we in some crazy way or another, we fear ourselves and being better. You know, it's like, it's so weird when I think, and like I'll use myself as an example. You know, I've had this job and I've got this awesome job that I love. I go to every day. You know, it's simple 9 to 5, 9 to 6. Sometimes work after hours, whatever. But that was okay for a while. That was okay for me for a year and a half. You know, it's fine. But I got used to it, and now I'm in a position where I'm saying, okay, I need to change. I need to evolve. I can take on more. Sure, I might be swamped, you know, from the morning until the late hours at night, and then getting up in the morning and doing it all over again, like all successful people do. And that's going to be stressful. It's going to be, you know, my cortisol levels are going to spike sometimes, and that's going to be unhealthy, but keep a level head. And I believe that, you know, that I am that person. I am the guy that takes on that much and can get it done in an efficient and great way. I've got great clients. I've got a great job. You know, like that's me. That's who I am, and that's who I'm going to become. That's who I am.
That's like time structured mindfulness. Like
yeah.
So to actually say, well, I'm going to be very busy until this date, you kind of create that mindset. I'm going to get a little bit less rest, which is going to require me to be more focused on the following thing. So, like stress is good. Like we talk about, you know, trying to eliminate stress and eliminate fear and eliminate angst. And I'm like, well, you don't want to eliminate all of it. Like you have to maintain a certain level. Like what keeps us, like, you know, what keeps us in, we need a certain amount of fight or flight, right? We can't always be rest and digest, right? We got to like be aware, you know, so like anxiety too much obviously can lead to the trickle down effect effect of too much of that, but the perfect amount of anxiety is it can be extremely virtuous. It can be a kind of risky, and it can be exciting, and it can create a certain level of freedom.
It can be an indicator too, like if you're constantly like depressed, like that is your physiology yelling at you to change something, to upgrade, to optimize, to do something differently. You know what I mean? So yeah, and even you could use the lens of training, right? Like, how do you get stronger? You stress your tissue. You break your tissue down, and then you feed your body proper nutrients so that next time it builds itself back up, it's that much stronger, right? Everything grows through stress. Like, you only improve through stress. So I love what you just said, man, because it's like you're challenging yourself. It's like, well, can I do it? Like, fuck yeah, I can. And I'm going to test it's always, like, life is just one test after another. The obstacle truly is the way. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you do become complacent, that's like where the resistance really eases in, and then you become less satisfied with your life. Like, what once brought you satisfaction, like your job, when it was challenging mentally,
exactly.
Like you had to get through these obstacles, but now you've seen them all. So now you're almost like just going through the motions. That's so dangerous, Well,
how about this? How about creating a little bit of, again, we talked about it a little earlier about like using like that dualistic state. You know what I mean? It's like you can't stress the same way about traffic that you would be, that if you had like a $20 million deadline for a new project. Like, it can't be the same stress. Like, I think you have to identify, like, this is a pretty worthy reason to be to be wound up and sleep deprived and stressed. But traffic is not. I'm not going to allow myself to stress the same way here. Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, so if this is stressful, then this is nothing. I think you do have to like laugh at yourself a little bit about, like, I'm only allowed to stress about certain shit. Like,
well, your level pushes, right? Like, as you're exposed to deeper and more difficult tasks. Like, I remember, and I was just talking to Zach about this because he's in his doctorate program for physical therapy. Pretty invasive program. But like, the repercussions of not passing a test is virtually nothing. Like, once you've known what it's like almost get evicted and not being able to pay your rent, or your kid's incredibly sick and you're still trying to make ends meet with your payments, and you're getting 3 hours of sleep at night. Like, your capacity to absorb and take stress goes way up. So now what was once your like threshold for stress is like, it's like a cakewalk.
Right.
Like, when I was in school for massage, that was the first time I'd been in school since like my freshman year of college. I was like 3 or 4 years removed from that, and I had done a lot of personal development through that time. I had experienced a lot of adversity, being a young father, trying to figure it all out. So like, when I got to school, like, and when I'd have a test, I'd see all these people just freaking out, and then I just have to like pull them aside and be like, what's the worst thing what's the worst case scenario here? Yeah. You fail the test, and they just already said that you can retake it as many times as you need to. So what's going on? You're good. Like the repercussions for me were like, I was going to get evicted and have nowhere to live.
Yeah.
Like, the repercussions of my kid getting really sick is that I lose my kid. Like, these are like real world, like, very difficult things. Like going bankrupt, like having to refinance your house, like all these crazy things that you deal with as you get older, and you're exposed to more difficulties, and like you just callous your mind, essentially. David Goggins talks a lot about that. I love that idea of callousing the mind, like, and he's obviously he's a little bit extreme, but we talked a little bit earlier about training. Like, training is something that I'm so grateful I got involved with in early, because it was a very measurable, like, okay, if I show up 5 days a week, like, I put on this much muscle. Like, okay, I couldn't dumbbell press the 70s last month, and now I can do the 75s. Like, I'm stronger, and it builds confidence. But every day you go to the gym, like, it's tough. Like, you push yourself. Like, it's a difficult task. But you start to callous your mind by showing up every day. And then you build a habit, and then you become more resilient. And then you can take that into other areas of your life. And I think that's what we do as a company. Our whole company is premised on that. It's like, come in here, and we're going to show you how to develop discipline and to callous your mind so that life is easier for you.
Yeah.
Life is easier when you've eaten a good breakfast. You know?
You put your take training. You put your body under stress, and then you let it rest, and it grows. It's the same, like the idea of going to the gym and exercising, and no matter what kind of exercise that may be, as long as you're putting your body under some stress and then letting it rest, is like the most simplified form of like life, and work, and putting yourself under a certain amount of stress to where it's not going to tear down your nervous system, and then letting yourself rest, and you become stronger in doing that, and it's important, I think, to take breaks and work too. Moderation is key. We all know to everything in life. You have to incorporate moderation into everything. You're working too much, chill out. It's like it has to be done. You got a bloody hand and you got a cut on your hand and you keep going in the gym and you keep bench pressing, that cut's not going to get any better. But you sit out for a week, don't bench for a week, that cut's going to callus over, it's going to get stronger, it's going to get harder, and you're going to be able to go push more weight. You have to give yourself a rest. I mean, it really is the most simple way to put, I think, some of the hardest lessons in life.
It's a great lens. And I mean, again, back to me and Drew being good friends for a long time, a lot of our friendship deepened through that experience. We trained together, we both kind of went under the fire. I got into it a little bit earlier than he did, but as he got involved with it, it was this thing, and all of my core group of friends, that was a staple. We were all jacked and healthy, and it exudes more confidence, and you feel more confident going into each and every situation, because you've experienced adversity inside the gym. I've missed so many lifts in my day. I've failed so many times in the gym. I've hurt myself. I've had to backtrack. I've learned so many lessons through that fire. And it's a cool lens because we built a business off of it. We train people to help them lose fat, but it's so much more than that. I mean, it's oftentimes we give people their life back.
Yeah.
We literally give them back the ability to go about things in a confident way, which is the difference between them potentially getting a $100,000 raise and just going on with their workload without asking for anything, So it's cool, man. It's
yeah,
fun.
it is, and yeah, it's tough for people, I think, to scale that. The correlation. It's okay, I go and try to push 225 10 times or whatever on the bench, and I fail on my 8th rep. Okay, I failed. I'll try again next time in the gym. With a business, you push your business and your business fails and then your business is gone. That's it's a bit bigger of a
higher
problem.
stakes,
yeah. So it's hard for people, but it's just as important. You know what I mean? In failing in business and having bad things happen so you can learn from them. I mean, not everything's going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, I like education starting from from a scale. I think you before you judge the human condition, before you judge kind of where you're at, I think you have to be open to, what, no matter what you define as a best case scenario, it's imperfect.
Right.
Okay, it will fall short of some expectation from somebody or something somewhere. So I think it's a different way to look at it. And then again, you look at things as worst case scenario. Really, I mean, this is the 21st century. This is 2019. What is all of our worst case scenarios? You're telling me I couldn't find a couch to sleep on? You telling me I couldn't find somebody to borrow me money or to take me in or somebody to get me a job? You're not getting eaten. You're not dying of starvation. You're not going to just freeze to death. Those days are over. So if you think about, again, my potential's flawed. My worst case scenario is I still have Wi-Fi and heat. How fucking bad could it be?
Yeah.
And just, I think we can adjust our grit scale a little bit. And
that's a great way to think about it. Tim Ferriss talks a lot about that, doing these exercises where you go if I lost everything, where would I be? I have great parents. They would take me in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't even think twice about it. Go get a job. I'm competent. I could do manual labor.
Somebody would hire me.
Fit. I can do mental work. I can think pretty well. So that you have to have that. But again, at the same time, it's we always kind of go about it here. It's there is no plan B. There's just plan A, and that's all we're focused on. And again, I think in your experience has been. I mean, you've had obviously you're 44.
Gonna be 46, bro.
46.
Holy hell.
Yeah, man.
You don't like a day over 35, man.
That's why we keep this boy around.
Yeah.
Love you, Millennial.
That does baffle me.
Mama's milk.
Yeah, we're just gonna throw you bones, bro.
Thank you, man.
He's kind of short on you.
I'll start falling asleep.
Yeah. Ben but you've had some gnarly experiences, with business. I mean, you've been an entrepreneur for damn near 2 decades, and you've had some massive failures, some massive successes, and you've been through the ropes. So again, even from my perspective, being almost 25, there's just so many lessons that I can avoid by listening to you. So getting around people that are gonna bring the best out of you, or being around people that when you start getting that stress of oh, I have a test, or hey bro, sit the fuck down, put on these Muse headphones, let's do some meditation.
Yeah, man.
Because relax, it's just a fucking test.
Rip the ball.
So sometimes because I know I get this way all the time. I still do, despite all I know. Sometimes my emotions will just override everything, and I need somebody to grab my shoulders and sit me down and be dude, it's gonna be all right. So again, like having great people around you, and again, like this hour of mind mapping was like, it was an expression of that. Like we're like a bunch of motivated, purposeful individuals get together and they create some massively cool ideas, like very quickly. You know, like I had no idea what was going to happen when you got here. I didn't have any agenda. There was a few things I wanted to discuss, but I was just kind of like, let's just kind of see where it goes. Like, that's kind of like what our whole existence is. You know, like just show up every.
I have
fucking
no
day.
plan.
Yeah, no expectation. Just let's do our best to be creative and let it flow. And
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I was listening to a podcast with the guy that wrote Essentialism. It's such a great book, just boiling things back to like very simple questions, and it's a cool idea of just like getting down to the most essential aspects of things, and like and obviously saying like, okay, worst case scenario, like essentially I could just go live on my parents' couch. So it's not that big. Worst case scenario, I fail this test and I got to go study harder, or I retake it and I got to prepare better, or whatever it may be. And if you're having that anxiety in the first place, it's an indication that you didn't prepare properly. Mm-hmm. Prepare properly. Sorry, excuse me.
You said that.
Yeah, thanks. But you know what I mean? It's that level of anxiety is you should take inventory, right? Like if you're massively anxious all the time, like you're probably not dealing with something you should be dealing with. So again, like, phasing these emotions out is dangerous, because then you don't have a clock or an indicator to tell you. Like, you're depressed, like, do something, change something.
Yeah, there's a difference between trying to just mask it and then like suppress it and get rid of it than just realizing that there's going to be resistance, and you just have to feel it, man. You just have to feel the stress. And like you said, sometimes your emotions can override you. I mean, during a few weeks ago, I was like crazy stressed at work, like wasn't getting a lot of sleep, thinking about it constantly. I could not stop looking at my email on my phone. I mean, it was like war zone in my head, and like even then I feel like I've come so far to where I was able to say like, dude, you're going to be stressed. Like, this is going to be really stressful, but just know that and feel it and let it, the natural,
I think they say pass through the emotion. Like,
pass through the emotion.
Allow it to happen.
Yeah, Sam Harris was just on Joe Rogan's talking about this. His wife is actually working with 6th graders to like teach them how to take an emotion and before acting on it, like assessing it. So like someone makes you angry, like acknowledge that you're angry.
Yeah, cry.
And that alone, just the acknowledgement of the emotion automatically makes it way less invasive. Now instead of thinking like, oh, fuck him, he fucked me, I'm going to go fuck him back, you're like, man, like, that really got me angry. Like, why did it get me angry? Like, what really happened? Like, then you start thinking like, well, what happens if I go respond? Like, is nothing good's going to come from that? So now you're like hyper analyzing everything, and before you know it, like, you're not even angry anymore. So it's a cool thing that is so neglected in education. I mean, we've bashed education, I think, enough on this podcast, but there's so many cooler ways to go about teaching humans that you think we would now know with all the science that we have behind us with psychology.
Yeah.
Like, we're
figuring it out. We're figuring it out. Slowly but surely. It's a
big system. It's going to take way more than one man to change it.
I don't know. Sometimes I just think, I think we're just we have a little too much homeostasis. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that people have the things that they need, but sometimes, I think it's, we're in a little bit of I guess, what is your scale? Are we looking at another million years? If we're looking at another million years, then this is a non-existent scale. If you're looking at the scale of like a human life, like we're in a little bit of almost like a numb zombie-like phase right now, because we're fed, we're entertained, and we all have heat and nice cars, right? So like it's kind of like a little bit of a pot,
Yeah.
But I think eventually we'll have to kind of reawaken again and hopefully recreate and make the next.
I mean, we can't run on the momentum of like, this is how we've always done things, because things are nothing like they were 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. No one saw the internet coming. Nobody saw, like, it's such an insane concept. Like, and I'm so young that I can't really talk about what it was like before it, because we kind of existed through like the peak of it. Like, I remember having to unplug my parents' phone modem to play online video games. Like, that's like where we were when we were younger, and it was all kind of coming into fruition. I remember having a Razor phone, and it was insane. Like, we were pre-iPhone, essentially.
Yeah, I like to think about the computer. I had a gateway desktop computer in my family room, that my family would use, and
take like 10 years to boot up, and
336 megahertz.
Yeah. You boot that thing up, loud as hell, and log into AIM.
A lot of things just worked back then because it was simpler, and it's terrifying because the access of information has led to more paralysis by analysis than ever before. Like, there's just too much shit. If you don't know how to sift through it, you're in trouble. I mean, we've built a whole business off of this. Like, you can find a billion good resources on the internet of essentially what we do, but like it's so hard to sift through the bullshit. Like we spent our whole lives, our whole careers sifting through the bullshit to get to the answers, so that we can then like fast track people and get them to where they want to go quicker without the headache of having to do all that research on their own.
Right.
But it's interesting because we still, I feel like, don't have a grasp on like how big it really is, how intense like what the internet has done for us really is, from a communication perspective, from an information perspective, from just all these other perspectives, right? And a lot of our systems were built pre-internet, and now it's like, well, is this the best? Like, we got to have those conversations. Is this still the best way?
Yeah, the Pony Express would kill somebody today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you actually had to ride a horse with a letter telling somebody you love them,
Attach it to a
these
raven.
days she'd be on Tinder by the end of the day. You know what I mean?
It's like when I watch Game of Thrones and they just attach like a note to a bird. I'm like, how do you know if it got there? Like,
I mean,
don't birds get jacked all the fucking time? Like, how do you
a bigger bird ate that bird?
And how does does one bird only go from one spot to the next, or like how do you program a bird to go where you want it to go?
You don't.
Yeah, like I genuinely enjoy being able to call my friends whenever I want.
Yeah,
it's glorious.
Yeah, oh, dude, technology is amazing. Internet's
but
amazing.
It's evil, man. Because now, 10 seconds is a week. What was a week? Like back in my day, we had pagers, man. And like my buddy, I remember the first cell phone I saw was a bag phone, and he plugged it into his cigarette lighter, right? But like that's when we had like 40-minute a month plans. Because you'd be like, yeah, bro, no, I can't go over my minute. Got to go by, click. Because you got 40 minutes.
My first phone was like I'm trying to think of what it was. I think it was the Razor. It was like my first phone. And we had like text messages, but you only had a certain amount a month. They didn't know unlimited plans yet, any of that kind of stuff. And I still remember I'd be like texting some girl or something in like middle school, and then like we're getting into the juicy stuff, and then my phone's like, you can't text anymore. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
You're out.
We were like the first generation of like the phone call inks. Because we grew up with like the texting, so like I still like I've gotten a lot better at it as I become an adult, because I see the value and importance in having a conversation, and it's quicker and it's simpler and it's faster than typing out a novel, right? But I still remember like back in those days, like I didn't want to call a girl and talk to her. Like,
we
it was scary.
We were all phone.
Yeah,
because even in our house, like our home phone, we had one home phone.
Yeah.
So if somebody was on it, like I remember there was a time like before we even had like call waiting. Like I'm a little bit older, so call waiting was like when I was in my teenage years. So if my sister was on the phone with a boyfriend or something like that for 2 fucking hours, nobody, we had to sit there and say, please let me use the phone.
Yeah.
But again, we did still, it was all voice communication.
Yeah, I mean, even in our generation, like that stuff's it's all so new. Like people forget the first iPhone launched in like mid 2000s. Like smartphones, like are like 10 years old, like maybe like 15 years old. It's absolutely bonkers what you're able to do on one of those things today, and
it's just exponential.
And I think like it's like one of those things, like we just need like a giant course that every human has to take to be able to have technology. Like it is so intense, and then you got a young daughter, I got a young son. Like bringing these kids up in this even more intensive technological world, it's even weirder. You
can't fight against it. You want your daughter to go for a walk, she hates you.
Yeah.
Because she's got 77 friends on a chat room right now that she's engaged in. Like,
it is fucking crazy.
I remember she said that to me.
Young kids, like, yeah, that's insane.
I remember she said that to me one day. I like my bonfires, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm from that generation. I love being on the locomotion like we kind of are today, and then I love a bonfire, like where you kill an hour looking at things burning.
Yeah.
And I remember she came out and she actually joined me one day, and I'm like, oh, well, thanks for sitting with me. And I remember she said to me, she says, Dad, why do you talk so slow? And I said, because I'm trying to slow down my talk when I talk about like mindful things. I'm trying to like get my thoughts clear before I say because it's my daughter. Like I want to be very to the point. I don't want to think quickly. If I think quickly, that's when you say, go to your room, get out of my face. That's when you're thinking quickly. I want to like take time to like really express myself. And I said, and I kind of tried to explain that to her a little bit. And I said, well, baby, I said, I know that I'm never going to be as fun anymore as what you can find like on the computers and on your phone. I said everything's going to be brighter, faster, more colorful, quicker, things like that. I said, but if I can teach you anything, just try to remember these moments. And even when you get into that AI fast-tracked world, I said, don't forget to sit at a bonfire every once in a while, just like settle down. So
it ties back in, slow down to speed up.
We talk about the present moment all the time, or we did on the podcast constantly. It seemed like every podcast we did, we talked about being in the present moment. That is one thing I'm horrified for kids that are growing up and that they won't get that, and just literally going outside, looking at the trees, swaying in the wind, and just not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just being immersed in the present moment like nature is all the time. And
You're
it's
right.
it's just existing in the present moment. There is something so refreshing about that, and humans just don't do it enough.
What we're going to have to do is right when they hit 18 is we're going to have to get them all stoned. There's no
Exactly.
better way to bring somebody
You're right.
back
I
to the
think
present moment.
it will take a certain amount of drugs.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But if you analyze what is a present moment? Okay, if you're a child if you're a technological child, the present moment is chaotic. There's 50 fucking things to do in the present moment.
Yeah.
So maybe we might almost have to change our dialogue a little bit about what does it mean to have a present moment?
Right.
Because you sometimes, I don't know, man, I can reflect back to, again, I can find things that are slower and I can appreciate, taking the dog for a walk. But present moment for a kid, man, I don't know, man.
I mean, I find myself even having a lot of remnants. I mean, I had to coach myself completely out of the generational mindset that I had when I had my son. Once I got thrust in the real world, I'm like, whoa, this did not set me up whatsoever.
Nope.
I'm a perfect definition of somebody who went a weird route, having my kids so young and then having to leave college and start working. And I mean, just nothing prepared me for the actual realities of working life, So it's I think it starts, to wrap this up, we're at about an hour here, fellas, already.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's flow.
But that's flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where it's you got to start with education, when they're young, teaching them about the actual realities. Because again, it seems like a good idea to keep things from kids because they're kids and they don't quite understand yet. So these hard topics, it's easier to just not talk about them than to talk about them until it's time for them to be talked about, and they're too far gone.
It's too late.
It's too
It's
fucking
too
late.
late.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. I have to take that role on with my parents or my son because I know he's not going to get it in school. They're going to beat around the bush all the way until he graduates high school. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit information. Otherwise there's definitely some useful stuff. And if you get lucky and you find a teacher that's actually passionate, despite getting paid shit, you can probably learn some stuff. But I mean, through and through, man. I have my own biases for sure because I felt like I was really fucked. It was I wasted. Because again, you start thinking when you're in high school. Up to that point, you don't really think that much. So it's whatever. It's kind of like whatever. But those 4 years in high school, how much further ahead could I be if I was influenced by good information and not a bunch of people that were miserable teaching me concepts that didn't matter to existence outside of these four walls. You know what I mean? So I think that's where it starts. But again, a solution, I don't have one. I'm just going to try to do my best by becoming my best so that I can lead by example for my son.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, this has been a fucking doozy of a talk.
Yeah.
It's been incredible, man. Thank you. I look forward to doing more of these.
Absolutely,
for sure.
man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sitting down with us today, and we'll for sure bring you in. You got anybody want to finish with anything? Anything to say?
Yeah, I think I can't. We always want everybody to have a takeaway, right? It's something they can apply to their life on Monday. Chill out, love change, thrive on it, and look for it. You know what I mean? Don't try to hide from it. Be looking for. It will always give you. It'll always give you hints that it's coming. There'll always be a vibration somewhere that's letting you know that things are change, which is part of their destiny, which means evolution.
Exactly. And if you wake up tomorrow morning on a Monday morning feeling stressed about the day or about the week or anything that's going on, just know that is normal, and that is there's nothing wrong with you, and stress is completely normal. And instead of trying to fight it and resist that, feel it and let it flow through you, let it take its course, and I promise the day will be a lot better.
Yeah, the best position is the next position.
Yeah,
I love that one. I use that for like movement, and it's a good way to look at life. Like just keep moving, find that next position, and then move from there, and just keep elevating whatever it is that you're doing. But thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, thank you, Drew, for stopping in and being a guest. Coach Ben Knapp on Instagram, Coach Kev Movement, I think. I don't even know right now. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Inflow Wellness Academy. Big things coming, guys. Stay tuned, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition, we'll guide you through supplementation, we'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out, and once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.